In this video, I'm going to talk about strategy. And I'm going to introduce the concept of strategy. And in order to do that, I'm going to be relating strategy not only to the business context, but as well to the personal level. Because strategy, having a good strategy or having a bad strategy, applies in the same way to a business, to a startup company, than it does to your own life. So here we're going to be presenting this idea. What is it? What is actually to have a good strategy? What are the main components of a strategy? And how are those strategies that are successful, how are they developed? What is the basic framework that underlies a good strategy? So in order to do this, we're going to go through a few examples as well. And then we're going to connect it to different definitions and different ways of understanding strategy. So let's actually start with an example. And we're going to start with an example that in a way is a business case as well. It's an example from the business world. But at the same time, I don't think that is intuitive for a lot of people to believe that Lady Gaga, the example we're going to be using here, is a good representative of somebody who's a great strategist. So first, we're going to watch a quick video on Lady Gaga. And then we're going to talk how she represents a really good example of what a good, sustainable strategy is about.
Lady Gaga was born to be a star. She ranks number 87 on our world's highest paid celebrities list and number 97 on our richest self-made women list. At 34, the singer, songwriter, actress, and businesswoman has a net worth of $150 million. Lady Gaga skyrocketed onto pop music charts in 2008 with her hit Just Dance. With empowering lyrics and resonating messages of acceptance, albums The Fame and Born This Way topped the charts and created loyal little monsters everywhere. Her latest record, Chromatica, is her sixth #1 album. The Queen Monster has won 11 Grammys, released 6 studio albums, and reached legendary status as a performer, like she knew she would. Born Stephanie Germanotta in New York City, Gaga was essentially a music prodigy, learning to play the piano at age 4 and performing open mic nights by 14. She's classically trained in jazz and a killer songwriter. But it wasn't always easy. Growing up, Gaga dealt with bullying and says it has stuck with her. But being told she'd never make it only fueled her fire. At 19, Gaga dropped out of NYU to pursue music full-time. And a year later, she was signed, but then quickly dropped by Def Jam Records. Then walked in Akon. Yes, that Akon. He signed her to his label imprint at Interscope Records, and so it all began. Lady Gaga's source of wealth includes album sales, song royalties, and ticket sales. She's reportedly earned $728,000 in royalties from Poker Face. The Monsters Ball Tour reportedly grossed over $225 million. Despite Gaga finding out afterward that she was in debt $3 million due to the show's many lavish costumes. Her shortened Born This Way ball tour reportedly grossed over $180 million. She's cashed in on brand deals such as Versace, Google Chrome, Polaroid, Virgin Mobile, and MAC Cosmetics, as well as her own perfume, Fame. Her real estate holdings include a Malibu mansion worth $23 million and Frank Zappa's former Hollywood home she purchased for $5.25 million. Moving to the big screen, Gaga landed a leading role alongside Bradley Cooper in the film A Star is Born. The film grossed $100 million in the box office in less than 2 weeks after its premiere, and she earned an Academy Award for Best Original Song. Expanding her empire in 2019, Gaga launched her makeup line, Haus Laboratories, which raised over $10 million in venture funds and is sold exclusively on Amazon. That same year, she began her Las Vegas residency, reportedly earning $1 million per show, nearly double previous earnings of Vegas residents Britney Spears and Celine Dion. Underneath the eclectic costumes and extravagant shows is a performer skilled in reinvention and resilience. We expect to continue seeing her climb the charts as well as our lists. After all, there are still boundaries to push in a way that only this star can.
What is her success due to? Why has she been so successful? Is this just because she's very talented? Is it because she's been lucky? Or is it because she was able to create a great strategy that combines her talent with the environment where she wanted to succeed? So in a way, her success relies on those two factors. Her ability to react to changes in the music industry, her ability to read those changes, and her ability to adapt herself, understand herself, so she can maximize the value of her talent and her skills and to match the challenges of the industry that she seems to understand very well. So in this slide here, we have a summary of what we could say are the main elements that explain her success, that explain her successful strategy. And this structure is the same structure that applies to any successful strategy. It could be a strategy about your own life. Or it could be the strategy of a large corporation like Google. Or it could be the strategy of a small startup company. And the same thing for strategies that actually fail, for bad strategies. If your strategy is not working, is not delivering success, it's going to be due to a failure in any of these four areas that we have in this table. So talking about Lady Gaga, the first thing for a successful strategy is to have clear goals. Where are you heading to? Where is the final outcome of your business, of your life? What are those objectives you want to achieve? Because not having a clear mind of what you want to do with your product or what you want to do with your skills is gonna prevent you from putting together a comprehensive, successful plan. So she was very clear about that. She was very, very focused, single-minded objective of being successful in the pop industry. And for her, that was very clear. Now that she had the goal very clear, she would need to understand the environment where she wants to realize that goal. In her case, she wanted to be successful in the music industry, in the pop industry. So she was very good at reading that industry. She was very good at understanding the changing economics of the music industry. She was very good at using marketing and how marketing back in 2006, 2007, 2008, how marketing was moving away into YouTube followers, into other apps that came later on like Instagram, etc., etc. So it was very good to understand that and to maximize the use of that. And then as well, she was very good at understanding her listeners. She was very good in understanding the Generation Y. What are their fears? What are their needs? I mean, she's very good at connecting with the needs, fears, problems of that generation. Therefore, her singing, her music, her whole persona is relatable to them. They can actually identify themselves with Lady Gaga. And that has been a major engine on her success. And that comes from having a great perception of the industry, understanding very well where the industry is heading to and what are the main characteristics of the pop industry for her. But then as well, she was very good at understanding her resources. She was very good at understanding her skills. She was very good at understanding that her theatrical skills could play a major role here. It could differentiate herself from other pop artists from the time. You know about her costumes, how she was very good at creating different outfits that got the attention of the public. And then the last part of a great strategy is implementation. Because you could have a very clear goal. Then you could have a really good understanding of the environment. You could be very good at understanding yourself and appraising your resources. But then you need to be effective as a leader. Because when you think about it, Lady Gaga is not there at all alone. She has a team of marketing experts. She has a team of artists working with her, musicians, fashion designers. So you have to be effective at implementing your vision, implementing your goals, implementing your understanding of the industry, using others to understand the industry even better, so that you as a leader can actually effectively apply your vision, your goals, and to really bring out your resources, your skills, so you can actually succeed in how you understand the industry. So we were saying that those 4 areas define strategy in any context. So we were talking about Lady Gaga, and we were talking about the music industry and how those 4 areas actually define the strategy that Lady Gaga in this case was actually following. But these 4 areas can be applied to other contexts, to your personal life, but then as well to the business world. So in order to illustrate that, we're gonna now watch a video and we're gonna comment and talk about a startup company. This startup company actually do diagnosis for the heart, for heart diseases. So we're gonna watch the video and then we're gonna talk about these 4 areas as well.
Echocardiograms are the most widely used tool for diagnosing heart disease, with over 40 million performed annually in the US alone. They create images of the heart which cardiologists use to diagnose heart disease. But here's the problem. The traditional way to make a diagnosis relies on clinicians to assess the images based on just a few factors. This means echo tests used to identify coronary disease are only correct 80% of the time. At Ultromics, we knew there had to be a better way. Ultrasound images contain huge amounts of information that is currently being ignored. So we used machine learning, a form of artificial intelligence, to tap into this information and create some of the world's most accurate diagnostic tools. In doing so, we have already increased the accuracy of echo tests for coronary disease to over 90%. This is how it works. We are plugging into one of the world's largest heart imaging databases at Oxford University and are extracting over 80,000 data points from every image. Our research team analyzes this data using machine learning and identifies patterns that are unique for different diseases. As a result, our technology allows for rapid and accurate cardiac diagnosis. Get in touch with us and learn more about our technology at www.ultromics.com.
Ultromics is a company that now has been around for probably 4 years, I think. But initially, it was founded by a PhD student, somebody who came up with an algorithm, a way of looking at heart data about heart diagnosis, and how to use it to provide doctors with a better way of diagnosing heart disease. So as you can see in the video, this has been quite successful. And there is a really strong strategy behind this that follows as well these 4 areas that we have in here. The first one, we were talking about the goals. The goals for them is to become the standard for world-class cardiovascular diagnostics tools. So they want to be the base for any doctor that wants to have accurate, proper diagnosis. And that's been very clear for them, and that has been the goal they've been chasing all this time. But then they also have a good understanding of the environment. And just to mention one thing here, they knew very well, and this is something that a lot of startups fail to understand, that you could have a really good technology, you could have an amazing algorithm, you could have a really good compound, but if you don't have a strong team behind you, investment is not going to come. And we know that through research. We know that investors generally, the first thing they look at is not only at the technology you have or the discovery you have. They also look at the people behind this, because they understand that the ability to create a product, to be successful, to implement a strategy requires the right people. So this guy, who's a PhD student, understood that himself alone wouldn't get any investment, even though he had a really cool invention. There's a lot of technologies, a lot of discoveries that go nowhere because the founder doesn't understand this, doesn't understand the industry. But also this company was really good at looking at other competitors. And they understood that they were in a really good position because there were no existing competitors. So all that understanding of the industry allowed them to see that the resources were great. They have a really good technology, a really good algorithm that can deliver a solution, a problem that people have, in this case, doctors. It can make their predictions, their diagnosis, way more accurate. But then at the same time, understanding your resources is as well about understanding what you lack. And this guy knew that he lacked the business expertise. And that's why one of the first things that he did was to hire a senior staff member from Philips. Somebody who's going to help with innovation and strategy. That is really important. You understand the industry, you understand what you need in order to get investment, and then you understand what you have. Do I have what it takes to get investment, to run my company successfully? And then you go and implement this, okay? You go, in this case, they went and looked for somebody who could actually fill that gap. Now, I'm giving you a very simplistic idea of their strategy. There's more to it. There's more things that they did. But the idea is this, is just to present these 4 areas. And this course, this module is about that. In this module, we're going to be talking about these 4 areas only. Because a great strategy is when you have a really good understanding of these 4 areas and you put them together very nicely. Then we can say you have a strategy. Now, this will become clearer as we go through the module. But at the moment, all I want you to do is to keep this in mind, to understand these 4 and their importance in a strategy. So the 4 areas we have identified that actually explain whether a strategy is going to be successful or not are presented in this slide, okay? This is just a way to put it, but it's the same idea we have presented here already. So a great strategy is about having long-term, simple, agreed objectives, having clear goals, okay? Lady Gaga had it, Ultromix had it as well. Then another thing is to have a really profound understanding of the industry, of the competitive advantage. Who is providing with a similar service to the one you have? Who are they? And as part of the business plan that you will be doing towards the end of this module, you'll be doing this. You'll be telling me about your competitors. Because you need to understand that what you're trying to do is to get people to pay for your service. So in the case of Ultromix, they need to understand who else is providing a service regarding diagnostics when it comes to heart diseases. So once you understand the industry very well, you need to as well think about what resources do I have? What resources do I need to complement what I already have? And how do I use these resources? How I use my creativity, in the case of Lady Gaga, my understanding of the Generation Y, or in the case of Ultromix, how I use my algorithm so that I can actually implement it, have an effective implementation, get people to pay for my service. Because at the end of the day, in business, the end goal of any strategy is to get people to pay for what you have to offer. The same idea put it slightly differently, okay? So we have a good strategy at the end of the day, and it is the same idea, it's just going to frame it slightly different. A successful strategy at the end of the day is about trying to connect the firm, your company, or who you are, if we are thinking about a strategy for yourself. It's about trying to connect who you are, your goals, your values, your skills, your limitations, to connect them to the industry, to your environment. Because once you make that connection, once you actually find that really nice connection between who you are and what the environment is, you find your right environment, then success is gonna come to you. And we could think about yourselves. You are who you are. We are all different. We all have different skills. That's why the first thing you need to do is to understand yourself, what we have on the left box. You need to understand your values. You need to understand your resources, your capabilities, your skills, so that then you find, box on the right, your right place in the environment. You find that place in the industry that is going to help you maximize, become the best version of yourself. So it's the same thing about companies. So Ultramex is about that as well. They understand they have a great algorithm, and the algorithm can be applied to the context of diagnosis for heart disease. And the same thing for you. What are your skills? People who are really good at engineering, people who are really good at mathematics, visualizing spaces, maybe they should become civil engineers. People who are very good with interpersonal skills, maybe they should become manager, therapist, you name it. But that is a successful strategy. Understand yourself and try to find how you connect yourself with the environment so that you actually become successful. So this module, we're going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about how to look at the environment, how to look at yourself, at your company, your resources, your discovery, and how to connect the two of them so you have a successful strategy. Okay? So we'll be coming back to this diagram because the whole module is summarized here. All we're going to be talking about is actually in this diagram. What we just actually saw in the previous diagram is what we call strategic fit. It's about finding that fit between your resources, your capabilities, and the environment, what you actually need to succeed in that environment. Do I have what it takes to succeed in that environment? Do I have what it takes to succeed in the diagnostics industry? Do I have what it takes to succeed in the pop music industry? And if I don't have everything, what do I need to get? Like in the case of Ultramex, they got somebody, they hired people with the business expertise because the founder missed that. So that's what we call it strategic fit. It's about finding that connection between the two of them. But this lack of a strategic fit, or lack of this strategic fit, can lead to failure. And I'm going to tell you about an example here of a company called Gen9. Gen9 was a company based in Boston. I think they started operating back in 2016. And at the time, they were one of the first ones to have DNA printing. So they had a really good DNA printing technology. And they were hoping to become, their goal was to become the first one to start printing DNA for different labs, different companies. So it was a very promising business because they were going to be the first one, they were going to be getting orders from different labs, printing them, sending them out. So the idea was so great that they got a lot of money investment. They got around $50 million of investment. So in the summer of 2017, they had all this money into their account. A few months later, by December, they were actually selling the company because they had a major problem with their strategic fit. They right away started getting orders from customers. And as the orders arrived, they realized that delivering to their customers was actually more challenging than they thought. And eventually they couldn't deliver. the logistics, the supply chain management expertise wasn't there. And eventually customers got a bit tired and moved away from them and went for their competitors. So why did they fail here? Well, they failed for a very simple reason. They failed because they didn't understand their environment very well. They hadn't looked into what do we need to succeed in this industry. If we're going to be printing DNA and we need to send it away, we need to send it out to our customers, we need to make sure that internal analysis, your resources, you have the logistics, the supply chain understanding so that you can actually deliver efficiently and on time. So again, this could have been avoided if they had thought about it seriously. If they have thought, okay guys, before we receive any orders, we need to make sure we know how to deliver. We know how to organize a delivery system. They didn't have that understanding. They didn't have that skills. And the reason was because they hadn't analyzed the industry well. That fitness, the fitness between what do I know and what do I need to know to succeed here. There was a gap between the two of them. That's what we call a gap in your strategic fit. There was no good fit between their strategy and, there was no good fit between their internal capabilities, what they can do, what they know, and what they needed to know to be successful. And therefore, they didn't have strategic fit, and therefore, they were not successful. What is a good definition of strategy? So, I think we find a really good definition in a Disney movie. Probably a movie that you have all watched.
Blackfoot tribe belongs to the Algonquin group. Quite savage, you know.
Let's go get him.
We'll get him. Gentlemen, first we must plan our strategy.
What strategy?
A plan of attack. The initial phase is an encircling maneuver. Thus.
So, as we have seen here in this Peter Pan movie clip, strategy is a plan. Strategy is a plan of attack. And here in this slide, you have a few kind of more formal definitions. But they all of them share the same idea. Like let's say we understand strategy as the means by which individuals or organizations achieve their objectives. That's what strategy is about. And how did you do that? What are the means? The means are by understanding yourself, understanding the environment, and finding that connection, making sure that you have everything that is needed in order to succeed in that environment. And that's why you need to understand yourself and the environment very well. So all these definitions here are compatible with what we have covered so far. So now that we have a definition of strategy, we can talk about the different roles that actually having a strategy play. So here we have the three different roles of a strategy. And by looking at three different roles that a strategy can play, we can see how it's extremely important that if you're working in a team or you're working in an organization, everybody is very clear about what the strategy is about. As you probably already know, I've done some consultancy myself with startup companies. And a lot of the times, the problems with those companies is that people in the company are not clear what the objectives are about. They're not clear about the strategy. So sometimes, you have a company, for example, I've been working with, they deal with a new material that can actually absorb humidity very well. And one of the problems was, when I was doing a bit of consultancy with them, was that people didn't know what exactly they were going to be doing with that material. It's a material that could be used for TV screens. It could be used for drug delivery, because absorbing humidity in drug delivery is a great property. Or it could be used as well for different components of different machinery. And the company kept changing industry and changing what they were going to be doing with that. And when I got them together and discussed these issues, people within the company had different opinions about what the strategy was. They had different ideas. So in a situation like this, first thing, anybody in the company is going to find it more difficult to make decisions. Should I be talking to this possible customer? Should I be talking to customers in the TV screen industry? Should I be talking to people in the drug development industry? If the strategy is not clear, people at different levels of the organization are going to find it difficult to know what they need to be doing. And a lot of companies, you would be surprised how a lot of companies actually lack this. They lack strategy and they lack the ability to communicate what the strategy is about to everyone. And that moves us to the second point here, which is that strategy is a coordination. When you have companies where the strategy is very clear, companies like Google or like Pfizer, for example, then communication is easy. When you tell in Pfizer that we are gonna go into antibiotics, to develop antibiotics, that makes sense to everyone because it's part of the strategy of Pfizer. So when the strategy is very clear, that communication is a lot easier. But then as well, strategy is as a target, as something that you want to achieve. So when this is clear, when you have like that strategy that is clear and allow everybody to make decisions, because now they know whether doing this is going to help achieve the goal, but then as well it's going to help coordinate and communicate across everyone. Then the target, the goals are going to be extremely clear, and therefore that company is going to be more likely to be successful. So as we said at the beginning of this video, the main objective of any strategy, any business plan you put together is to actually make money, it's profit, okay? So the key question that we have in this diagram for any strategy is, how do we make money? So let me tell you about another company I've been advising for a couple of years, okay? This is a company called Graph-Matek. It's another material company, and they're working with graphene. I don't know if you know much about graphene, but graphene is a material that has amazing properties. Okay, and until now it was very difficult to use graphene because it was very difficult to manipulate. But the scientist behind this company was able to create a type of graphene that can be applied to many different industry problems. But now the problem they were facing, or they are facing still now, is to think, okay, graphene can be applied to many contexts. Graphene can be applied to machinery because one of the properties of graphene, it doesn't heat up so much. It is more resistant to heat than other materials. Meaning that if you build machines in factories using graphene, those machines will have to stop less because of overheating. And therefore, you're going to increase the productivity of your plant. So that's one application. But there are other applications for graphene. You could use it, mix it with plastic, and use more resistant, more efficient plastics. Or as well, you could use it as well for conductivity. So what I'm trying to say here is that Graph-Matek was actually facing this dilemma. We have this product, we have many different industries. Which one should we actually go for? And the idea here is that you need to go for that one that is gonna increase your rate of profit. So, and that rate of profit is above the cost of capital. Very simple. You need to choose an industry that is gonna give you more money than the money you spend. So you need to be thinking about, okay, if I'm gonna go into creating machinery with graphene, how much money do I need to invest? Remember internal analysis, your internal analysis about the company. What do I need to succeed in this industry? And how much money do I need to invest to succeed in that industry? And then you compare with how much money you think you can make by selling your solution to your customers. And those questions is what we call corporate strategy. It's choosing the right industry. Now, that is very common when we are talking about technologies, new materials, new science. It's about what should I do? This solution or this technology has many applications. So choosing the right industry is extremely important. But then what you have at the bottom of this diagram, once you choose the industry, okay, you're gonna go and create, or you're gonna produce machinery or help produce machinery using graphene. How do you do it? How you are going to compete? And that is what we call the business strategy. We're going to be talking more about this, about how to compete. We have a full topic on what we call competitive advantage. But the idea now is that once you choose the industry, how are you going to do it? So for example, Lady Gaga, she actually chose to compete in the pop music industry. That would be her corporate strategy, deciding which industry. She could have gone for another industry. She could have gone into country music. She could have gone into jazz. Okay? But once you choose your industry, how are you going to do it? And the way she did it, the answer, her business strategy was about all the things about her different dresses and outfits that she wore, the lyrics, using all these lyrics to connect to the new generation, her marketing campaign, being one of the first movers into using the new online resources to market her career, etc., etc. So that is what we call business strategy. So these two are connected, and it's important to differentiate. And we have companies, startup companies like Graphmatech, that actually are constantly thinking about this. For Graphmatech, competitive advantage, a lot of the times, a lot of the questions they need to answer is, okay, so we're going to go into creating new machinery. How should we do it? Should we actually produce the machines ourselves? Or should we work with existing companies that make machines and work with them together with our product to actually produce new machines that are using graphene? Both options are completely different. In the first one, you are competing with those companies. In the second one, you are collaborating with them. That is business strategy. Even though we are defining strategy here as a plan, as something that you might want to sit down and put together a plan, still, is nowadays, especially because the industries, the environment, things change so quickly, no plan survives very long. Meaning the companies might be putting a strategic plan in place now, and then the environment, the industry is changing constantly. So they need to be able to change and react quickly. That's why I have this quote from this gentleman here. I don't know if you know him, but he was a famous, general from the First World War, a German general from the First World War. And he talked about this. He talked about how no plan survives first contact with the enemy. You might have a plan about how to compete. The company I was talking about before, Graphmatech, might have a plan about how to compete. But then things change. New opportunities might arise that are more beneficial than the ones they're working on at the moment. And then you need to be able to react quickly. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't have a plan. Because having a plan, having analyzed the industry, having analyzed yourself, is going to allow you, the work that goes into putting a plan together, is going to allow you to react more quickly to any changes in your environment. So, under this view, we see strategy more as a guideline, as a way of navigating the complexity of the industry, the complexity of your environment. So we have in this diagram the same idea I just mentioned before, okay? So in a way we have to the left this understanding strategy as a design. You sit down, you put a plan together. rational choice. You choose your industry. You choose how you're going to compete. You choose your business strategy. But then on the other side, on the right, we have strategy as a process, because things don't stay the way they are for long. Things change constantly. So it's about understanding the environment, looking at the environment, looking at yourself on a regular basis and changing your plan. So when you put these two ideas together, we get to what really happens. We get to what we call realized strategy. The strategy that really takes place. The strategy that is really implemented is a combination of the both. So you actually sit down, do the work, do industry analysis, analyze your environment, analyze yourself, your capabilities, what you need to obtain, to develop in order to succeed in your environment. But then at the same time, you react and keep looking to what happens in your environment. And those two combined are going to make your strategy more likely to be successful. And this is because what we have at the bottom box here, because the future can be predicted. That's why you need to constantly be alert. That's why people like Lady Gaga, great companies like Google, Amazon is a great example. Amazon is constantly looking at their environment. They're constantly looking for new opportunities. They're constantly trying to understand how things are changing, how customer preferences are changing, so they can change their strategy accordingly. Any company that wants to remain successful for a long time needs to be alive. The strategy needs to be alive and receptive to new inputs. So in a way, strategy building, creating a strategy is about analysis. But it's not all about analysis. It's not all about putting things into a plan. It's about analysis, but keeping yourself flexible, keeping yourself ready to change. But a strategy can help you, as we've been saying in the last two slides. Strategy and the analysis you do to develop your strategy can actually allow you to respond quickly. The strategy improves your decision making. It doesn't give you answers. But having looked at the industry, having looked at yourself, understanding what you need to develop, is going to allow you to react more quickly to changes in the environment. Then as well, it's going to help you identify the main issues, the main aspects, the main things happening in the environment that you need to take into account. And then as well, or just to give you an example, for example, talking about this, how companies like Ford, car producers, are looking into artificial intelligence, and they're looking to establish partnership with companies like Google who are developing artificial intelligence. Why? Because they can see how Tesla is coming in and how Tesla might end up taking business away from them. So that is what it is. It's about being alert, and analysis and planning can help you maintain this flexibility. So, because the world is so complex, the environment is so complex, strategy analysis allows you as well to manage this complexity. Having clear goals, having a clear understanding of your industry, having a clear understanding of your resources is going to allow you to manage this complex world. So therefore, it's going to enhance flexibility. So even though we have this tension between a plan and flexibility, having a plan, having a business plan, if you don't take it too seriously, is going to help you react very quickly and become more flexible.